Somehow or other, you could work in a factory producing things in a conveyor belt. Tendency to feel a bit of an automaton. But there's something that's nice to see. A nice ship, a good ship, it's functional, that's going to be travelling the seas of the world, and you know you've contributed to it. There's that feeling of pride, I think, in shipbuilding.
I was speaking to Peter Kerrigan, who reckons that it's the biggest demonstration in Glasgow since May Day 1926, just prior to the general strike. And the one important point about it, it was a spontaneous, mass, working class demonstration that was led by rank and file leadership. And I think what we've now got to discuss, how we can maintain the movement, keep it going and develop it. I think we should ask the Secretary to read some of the latest and some excellent telegrams of support for the struggle to retain shipbuilding and the upper reaches of the Clyde. Con.
Right, Chairman. Well, the first two are telexes, in fact, from Holland, the Netherlands, for those who don't know what Holland is. To the striking workers of the Upper Clyde shipbuilders, we workers of Amsterdam Dry Dock Company follow your struggle for preservation of work with much interest and sympathy. We know that fighting costs sacrifices. Write us how we can help you, indeed with money, goods, adoption of children, or in other ways. Long live the international solidarity.
I think we should send Jimmy McCrindle away.
Solidarity and memories of past class struggles stir the Upper Clyde shop stewards as they meet to discuss the next step in their fight to save the yards. No one points out that the 1926 general strike ended in the rout of the unions. The workers have reacted instinctively, in the only way they know how, to this threat to their jobs, their livelihood.
If in August the crunch comes and it's anything less than the full maintenance of shipbuilding at its present level in the Upper Clyde, then we're really prepared to implement what we've publicly stated our position is, and that is that we'll organise, that we will occupy these yards and call upon our fellow workers, particularly in Scotland, to rally to our support.
The steward's threat to occupy the yards has startled the establishment. Is it to be taken seriously? I put the question to their spokesman, Clydebank Communist Councillor Jimmy REID.
Absolutely serious. When the crisis broke and the possibility of closure was very much on the cards, well, we had a discussion. What do we do? Now, hit the street? Go on strike? That seemed ludicrous in the situation because that's exactly what they wanted us to do. So we barred this. We reckoned this was an impossible position for us to take up. Now, of course, there's going to be difficulties if it ever comes to that crunch period. We've actually discussed the contingencies that would be involved. Just let me put it this way. So they cut off the electricity. But you know, it'd have to be a worker that cut off the electricity. It's not Edward Heath's people that provide electricity or steel. And we know that also what would be involved in it would be tremendous support and solidarity from our fellow workers.
I mean, you go on making chips. I mean, you wouldn't sit around playing cards.
Well, listen, nobody's seen the discipline of the last 2 weeks that has existed in the shipyards and the upper reaches, because the stewards are now telling men that we have got to establish a code of conduct, indeed of dignity, in this crucial fight for us, that there will be no vandalism, no demoralisation, which usually ensues from a liquidator coming in. And the men have been absolutely magnificent on this. There's one thing that if we fail, and that's unthinkable for us, the men will not have let us down. We'll really have a go in this one. We've got to, incidentally, I'll tell you this much. We've got to have a go. We've got to stay in the yards because there's nowhere else for us to go. 1 in 9 male unemployed in this town just now. Where is it? It's the dole queue, and I'm afraid we're not going back to the dole queues.
The cranes of John Brown's shipyards, most vulnerable of the Upper Clyde group, dominate the town of Clydebank.
You have your non-deployment parliament campaign against unemployment.
The threat to close Upper Clyde gives all Scotland a bad attack of the jitters. It is easy to see why. Scottish unemployment outstrips the national average and is rising steadily. In Scotland, there are 20 out-of-work men for every vacancy. In Clydebank, the situation is even worse. In a total population of 50,000, there are 2,500 unemployed and just 8 vacancies for men. To sign a petition is to at least do something. It is a cry for help.
How long have you been unemployed?
A year.
Do you have a trade?
Yes.
What is it?
Engineer.
What's your job? Do you have a trade?
Yeah, machine operator.
A machine operator?
Yeah.
What, no jobs for that around here?
No, nothing at all.
Yes.
Well, it's finished.
Yeah. How long have you been unemployed?
2 months.
About a year.
Yeah.
6 months, 7
6
months
months.
now.
Do you have a trade?
Painter.
Yeah. What, did you try to get a job?
No, I've tried, just they can't get you nothing new anyway.
Yeah. What's the wife think of it?
Oh, what can you think about it?
You're a married man?
Yes.
Kids?
One.
So still at school? Or?
Yes, it's school, high school.
Yeah. What does the wife think of it?
What can she do? She doesn't think very much of it, obviously.
What do you do? And what are you going to do now? What do you do for the rest of your day?
What can I do?
We have your non-deployment
Housework,
campaign
that's
against
all.
unemployment.
I'm sorry?
Housework, work in the garden, that's all.
Bit of work in the garden.
Well, the weather's all right, that's all. It's a dead bloody loss, this.
It's a dead town, Tommy. It's a dead town.
It's a dead town.
Get heated direct industry up to us, eh? That's what we
Aye.
want. This is what the campaign's all about. Get me direct industry up. Plenty of work if we direct it up. The factories lying empty, Cumbernauld, all over it, all the estates.
Aye.
Until you build advanced factories, they're all built and they're putting any industry into them.
Not a thing.
Would you take any job?
Oh, I'd take any job as long as the money was there. Half the jobs you're on offer now, I mean, you're a better half in it, bro.
What's your day, though? You know, what do you go and do now?
No. I go up and take this few covers home and maybe come down, go into the library, get a book. If the day's good, for a walk. If not, sit in the library. That's it. 7 days a week.
What do you do now for the rest of the day?
Watch Williams.
Anybody that's never been unemployed doesn't understand it, and never will.
Degrading, Tommy.
And degrading? That's not the word for it. You shouldn't have been bloody well shot in that word. And there's just nothing. You find out your age, you know. That's it.
How old are you?
55.
Feel an old man?
I might as well be shot, to be honest. I'm no bloody use anymore. Not in Scotland.
Do you wish you'd left Scotland when you were younger?
I did do.
Yeah.
I'm bloody sorry I come back to it.
Scotland's basic problem is that her traditional heavy industries have declined faster than new ones have been built up. In shipbuilding alone, the labour force has shrunk by 10,000 in 10 years. Since the war, there have been various attempts to inject life into the Scottish economy. One was the Tootill Report, published 10 years ago. Industrialist Sir John Tootill attacked Scottish bosses and trade unionists for being behind the times and called for new ideas, new drive. It was described as a blueprint for the 70s. What then has gone wrong? I put the question to Sir John.
Well, I think the whole economy has, gone for a burden. We're finding, in effect, really the damping down of the thing hits the capital goods, and Scotland, of course, is predominantly capital goods, or rather more capital goods producers than the rest of the UK. So if that goes, then you're in trouble. At the same time, of course, really, you can't have this and have the wage rises of 12%. You've got, if you're in capital goods, you've got to sell abroad, quite substantially abroad, maybe up to 50%. And this is one of the problems that one's faced with. You've got to somehow try and cut back.
Are you critical of government policy? I mean, this...
Well, I didn't know they had a policy. I assume they have, but it doesn't seem to come through at all.
What would you like them to do?
Well, I would like them to create some confidence. This is the first thing they've got to do somehow or other, really. I'd like to see some definite move to go ahead with what was put forward in Oceanspan, that is the new proposed steel works at the deep water port over on the west side. I think that's got to be done, really. But then on top of that, really, I don't believe there's any real answer unless they come back and stimulate the economy. And I think it'll take, once this is started, it'll take a year.
What then does the government intend to do for Scotland? I put Sir John's criticisms to the director of the Scottish Conservative Party's central office, Mr. Robert Kernahan.
I think Sir John's being a bit hard there, because in fact under the last three governments, one of the strongest threads in regional policy, which is especially important in Scotland, has been the approach of Sir John's own committee back in 1962, and everything done successfully and partially successfully from then could be said to stem from Sir John's own ideas. I think he is making an epigram there, if you like, at the expense of the real truth, which is, I think, that the Scottish economy can never be right unless the British economy is also right. To get Scotland on the move again, I think Britain has got to be moving, and there is no doubt that the economic difficulties the government has been trying to overcome were deep-rooted. In the Conservative Party, we think they were aggravated by the kind of pre-election decisions and attitudes taken up by the last government, and I think it is going to be the task of this Parliament to get the economy right. And when the British economy is right, Scotland will be moving in the right direction too.
But when is when for Scotland's 5.6 unemployed?
I think it would be very foolish to suggest that something which has been a deep-rooted problem can be cured in a matter of weeks rather than months. Politicians have used that kind of attitude before and have come wrong. I would hope that in the course of this year, the improvement which is beginning to show in the inflationary position and in the unemployment position may become more apparent. The rate at which inflation, which I think is a bigger problem even in Scotland than unemployment, is racing ahead, has at last begun to slow down quite appreciably. I think there will be, and it would be foolish to deny this, a difficult and anxious winter ahead for Scotland. I would hope that in the course of the next year, a marked, and what is more important, a lasting improvement in our position would begin to be evident. I think there is only one long-term basis for running shipbuilding or any other industry, and that is on the basis of the profit motive. And I think part of the difficulty in Scotland is that for 50 or 60 years in this country, even more than in the rest of Britain, profit has been made a dirty word. But when it comes to the bit, whether in a nationalised industry or a privately owned industry or an industry requiring government assistance, unless you can make it a profit-making industry, if you like, a plus rather than a minus industry, there is no future for that industry, nor is there any long-term future for the men whose jobs are in it. Now, this is something that I think was ducked under the last government, though even Wedgwood Ben was not prepared to put a permanent safety net under UCS. I think it has to be faced under this government.
But if profit is a dirty word in Scotland, unemployment is an even longer and dirtier word, surely. And can any government afford to have a mounting figure of unemployment in Scotland?
Unemployment is partly a consequence of industry failing to make profit. I entirely agree with you that unemployment is a social disaster, but in fact it is also a social disaster, and it is a sure road to permanent unemployment if you cannot make your basic industries viable and profit-making ones.
Well, these are where the facts must be made known to the British public. You see, when you talk about the UCS, you're really talking as from 1968 onwards. I mean, we'll not defend the record of the previous owners of shipbuilding in the Clyde. I mean, they squeezed every halfpenny they could get out of the industry without putting anything back. They treated their workers like dirt. And they may have left a few bob to their heirs, But to the workers in the shipyards of the Clyde, they left us an inheritance of, in many respects, antiquated machinery and a much neglected industry. And therefore what we're arguing about is a performance in 68. Now, I mean, facts are facts. In 68 we delivered 3 vessels. In 69, 7 vessels. In 70, 12 ships. This year, 15 ships, with a 25% reduction in the labour force. If you want a 500% increase in production in 3 years with a 25% reduction in the labour force, I reckon that's unequalled in British industry.
Have successive governments pursued wrong policies? Strathclyde University lecturer John Busby.
I think that the measures were a short-term measure. They brought in new work, but in my view they produced a weakly structured economy, such that the ownership is abroad, which means that management decision-taking is taken elsewhere, research and development is carried out elsewhere. Essentially, if you've got a home-owned industry, there's a survival symptom. You have survival symptoms. You want it to survive, and the local management would do all they can to find new markets for the products. Whereas there's a tendency, if it's owned from abroad, for this simply to be closed down.
So what are the answers?
Well, I think the answer is to try and structure the industry with investment, local investment in local talent, so that you, in fact, have more local decision-taking. You have a management which is based in Scotland. You have research and development so that the product policy is formulated in Scotland. It's very important that business is what it makes or what it does. So that if, in fact, you can marry the research and development, which includes the sort of clever people you employ, with the corporate management of the companies, so that you have a forward policy which shows progress, then this is my solution. In order to get this, I think we've got to restructure by creating new companies. We need spring chickens to take the place of some of the lame ducks that we've seen around. Now, it's very difficult to start up in business. It's very difficult for the individual to get venture capital to set him off. And I think that one of the things I would like to see in Scotland is some form of venture capital corporation which would invest in new ideas, new business areas.
I mean, have you got the people in Scotland now? I mean, isn't Scotland got a sort of brain drain all the time from the skilled worker level upwards?
Well, it's quite true that the haggis is piped in all around the world, in Australia and America and so on, and you'll find Scots successfully running enterprises the world over. There's a tremendous lot of activity going on in Scotland, but I think it's time perhaps we exercise some of the brains here to this situation. Yes, certainly.
Nearly everyone I speak to in Scotland looks at the future very pessimistically. You don't?
No, because I think that Scotland's assets, its countryside, its environment, I think will in the end weigh very heavily for it. The trouble is, at the moment, it's going to take a long time for these sort of qualities to be recognised further down south. England's fast becoming an environmental jungle with people on top of each other. Towns are joining into towns, roads are full of cars, motorways go through people's houses and property. It's much better up here. When people begin to realise this, I think there'll be a natural move to Scotland. But this might take 20 years.
Now, very shortly, you'll be leaving this little secluded monastery. You'll be going out into the wide world. Now, I want you to think very carefully about where you're going and just what you're going to do.
These youngsters, about to leave a Clydebank secondary school for the last time, cannot wait 20 years for things to improve in Scotland. Now, some will go on to high school, others to technical college. A few have jobs. Others will go straight into the ranks of the unemployed.
Now, for instance, Hugh here so far hasn't got one, have you? You're still waiting. Stuart hasn't got one, he's still waiting.
I discussed the situation with the chairman of Clydebank Youth Employment Committee, Councillor Arnold Henderson.
So far as the Youth Employment Service is concerned, our officer is not able to offer them any worthwhile jobs at all. The few jobs that are there are dead-end jobs, message boys and the like. There's no careers, that's for boys and girls. And of course, hitherto one was able to contact other areas for some kind of assistance, but the west of Scotland position is so bad that there's no possibilities. Factories have been shut in other parts of the west of Scotland, particularly in Glasgow. So that source has dried up. And one other aspect, of course, is that I have been approached by people telling me that as a sort of last resort, they're having to suggest to their sons particularly that they may as well join up in the army, go into the armed services. Not that they want them to, not that there's any particular desire to do it, but rather than have the idleness that sometimes brings other forms of trouble, that the boy should go away, and of course he goes away from home, and that breaks up the home and all the rest of it.
Well, you know, I think it's nationally known, even internationally known. The Clydeside is synonymous with shipbuilding. They can bring all the light industries they want, and incidentally, they're not very successful at that either. Usually it's for making undergarments for women, which is hardly an alternative employment for a plater or a welder. But shipbuilding's in the very fibre of the west of Scotland character and nature. It's almost a symbol. But I served my time as a marine engineer in one of the factories that were ancillary to shipyards. I worked in shipyards when we were putting in the engines. But apart from that, I mean, I've imbibed the whole atmosphere, if you like, of shipbuilding. You know, the people who talk about shipbuilding, one of the great things is I launch, and I'm absolutely convinced in my own mind that the economists have underestimated the repercussions of taking this integral part of the economy, in other words, closing it. I believe there will be a chain reaction greatly in excess of the 35,000 jobs that's been spoken about. There's more involved in that. The labour exchanges are full. And I personally know, neighbours, associates of mine, who've been walking the street now for months. And anybody that knows anything about the effects of unemployment know the demoralising impact it can have on, you know, the human dignity, the human personality of workers. It's part of our folklore up here. We've had our basin full of it. That's putting it bluntly. And quite frankly, the feeling that's abroad here is thus far and no further. We're not going any further.